be the one to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a show where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Arielle Zadok. I'm an intimacy coordinator and sexologist. My guest today is a sex and intimacy coach, Tedx speaker, and a host of the Sexy Biz Babe podcast. Welcome to the show, Tia Lynn.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that sorry, Rosie. I'm so happy that you're here. I feel like Instagram is a weird place because like we know other people on Instagram, and I feel like you and I were just like leading these double lives of like sex and intimacy work, play parties, pole dancing, and I was like podcasting. I'm like, I'm going to meet this woman at some point, and we're just going to be kindred spirits.
Yes, I know. And then we finally met at a podcast live.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, you need to meet her. And then I was like, wait, you do pole dancing and go to play parties? Wait. And you teach and you're a sex and intimacy coach and you love purple?
Yeah. It's like literally all of the things.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah. And it was pretty great after that.
Yay. Yes.
I know. I'm happy that the two of us are kind of like in our little worlds now and get to support each other.
I am too.
Yeah. And so how long have you been pole dancing for?
I usually just respond with a long time.
Yeah.
But I guess I will tell you about a decade.
Wow, that's great. And how did you get into pole dancing?
So I went to a silks class with one of my best friends in Utah. And as I was finishing the hammock class, I saw the pole class and all the girls. And I was like, ooh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I did my first pole class. I was hooked. I think several months later, I started going classes consistently and I was addicted and I went like 4 to 6 times a week.
Mm-hmm. And were you always like a tricks person right off the bat or a dance person? Because there are two types of pole dancers, and people don't know this if you don't know pole really. There are the ones that are like tricks. And then there are the ones that are like floor work, dancing, slow, sexy stuff. So which one did you find yourself in?
Tricks. I love the tricks. I liked how hard it was. I liked the challenge. I instantly went into tricks and then I went into more exotic and heels and dance and flow. And I already had the dance background for my whole life. So then I just did both and I'm both.
Yeah.
But I do tend to go towards the tricks, but I already have the background in dance.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's funny because every pole dancer that you'll talk to is like, oh yeah, I do a lot of tricks, but like I don't really do the dancey stuff so much, or like I do all the dance, but I am not a tricks person.
Yeah,
no interest in it. Don't think it's sexy on my body. Like I'm just like I don't feel the way that I want to feel in this art form.
Yeah,
because then I'm just like a gymnast, and that's not me.
Yeah, okay. I like hearing the other side.
Yeah,
I was always curious, but no, I'm both. I love the exotic. I love the flow. I love the tricks.
Yeah. I mean, it's super cool when I can do a trick. I'm like, wow, that's cool. Look what my body can do. I've been dealing with an injury for like 2 years or something because I'm old. But also, no, not just because you have to cross train really well. And some of the teachers that I was training with, like, they did not like warm-ups. It was very clear that they were not into warm-ups. Their warm-ups would be like 10 minutes, so fast. And then we'd be doing like tricks. And it's just like, obviously you're creating injuries, and maybe not for the 20-year-olds, but definitely for the 40-year-old.
Yeah, I definitely have a full warm-up and conditioning. And then I get into it because you may not know this, I broke my back in 7 places.
Wow. Was it doing pole or was it doing something else? Just like life.
Ago? No, like I got in a car accident and I broke my back in 7 places when I was 17. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
I have back injuries and I have pain daily.
Yeah.
So I have to really like train and be consistent, and I do acupuncture, chiro, like I do all the things and I still have pain.
Yeah.
So Pole actually helps though,
Yeah.
because of the strength
Mm-hmm.
and it helps my muscles, all of the things. So pole not only has helped me like mentally and confidence and flow and all that, but it also helps with my pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people that have a similar experience. I have another friend that she also broke her back
Yeah.
and she started pole dancing after that. And that
Yes.
was like a huge part of her recovery. And
Yep.
she does like wild ass tricks. She actually like sings on the pole because she like sings and plays
Ooh.
guitar, Lauren Chase
Wait, who
music.
is that?
Lauren Chase.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. I've
giving
met
giving
her.
her a shout out.
I've met her.
Love you,
So
Lauren. Yeah,
yeah.
super talented. It's so cool. And you're like, wait a minute, you're just like sitting on a pole
Yeah.
playing guitar and singing right now?
Yeah.
Like, what am I looking at?
Yeah. I've seen it and we've met.
Yeah, which is such a fun thing about pole because I really think that you can do whatever you want with it and like make it whatever you want. And it's just, I'm so attracted to the sensual arts and sensual expression and like how can we cultivate that in other areas of your life that's outside of the bedroom because that's really how we can get it in the bedroom too.
Yep. How you have confidence inside and outside the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yes. It affects you in all areas.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Have we covered pre-poll? Like everyone go take a poll class?
Yes. Hey, I've watched so many people start doing pole and being more open with it.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like even just in my community and coaches and people who follow me and then they start doing it and then they like share it more. It's like you're giving permission for other people to explore their desires and sensuality. And
100%.
like, oh, she's doing it. She's respected. Okay. Wait, I can do it. Okay. Yeah, I love it.
There's a coming out when it comes to pole dancing, and there's a coming out when it comes to being a sex educator or a coach or anything like that as well. There's a whole timeline of like you start doing the thing and you're like, you want to share it, but you can't share it. And then maybe you'll share it through like close friends or private accounts or this or that. Like when people come to my classes, when I do teach them, I'm like, please record everything. Even if you never share it anywhere, like record yourself, dance for yourself, see what it feels like to dance for your own gaze, and then watch. Oh, Rosie. Well, okay. Well, she is scratching the couch, so.
100%. I wish I had more before pit videos.
Yeah.
I think I didn't record very much until it looked good.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a ton of like huge before and after. Like even, I mean, I did go like all in.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I
Yeah.
wish I recorded more before videos.
Yeah.
So do that.
Definitely do that. I'm like a football team when I dance. I don't really like, yes, I'll use the mirror, but at the studio that I dance at, there used to not be a mirror in front of the pole. I would always just go and dance on that pole. That's actually how I started dancing on a smaller pole because I got used to that one. And now I'm like, I can't do this big pole. I hate that, which is like what you perform on, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But I like, sure, I'll use a mirror. If I'm choreographing, yeah, I will use a mirror. But for the most part, I just film myself and then I watch it back and then I see, oh, your leg is doing this or your hand is doing this or your face is doing this or whatever it is. And then I can tweak myself. So even if you don't want to do it because, like you don't want the memory, it's a really great tool for getting better and like seeing because you can't always feel it in your body. Yeah. Reflections.
Totally.
Yeah. And so how did you get into the sex coaching world and that whole area of your life? And was that a parallel path at all with pole?
Not at all. Had nothing to do with pole. I moved to California, planned on getting a marketing job. I was in marketing, was a marketing manager for corporate, and then moved to California. Didn't want to work for somebody, and it was like so intense. I kept applying for jobs, and I just really didn't want to do it. And so I was like, okay, I give myself a month to figure out what I can do that isn't working for somebody. And pretty much I'm trying to make a long story short, is I started working for companies and doing their marketing. I had my clothing line already, so I grew my clothing line. And then there was a point, I know this is so scattered. Sorry, guys, I'm super ADHD.
Oh, so am I. They're so used to it. We are like all over the place. Y'all know what's up.
So I'm like, okay, condensed version. I was in Thailand, took a course on mindset, and then it upgraded to become a money-making coach. And I was like, let's give it a try. That sounds cool. That would be awesome if I could be a coach. And I decided to become a marketing coach while in Thailand, and did listen to the trainings and announced it while in Thailand on my birthday about 6
Ooh.
years ago. So I went for it and I got my first client within a month, high ticket. And
Wow.
then I just kept going and learning and hiring coaches and helping and courses and growing and teaching what I already knew, which was marketing. And
Yeah.
then, how I got to sex and intimacy coaching is it just happened naturally.
Yeah.
Like, all of my clients were like, you helped me so much with confidence. You helped me with owning my sexuality. Like, I'm that person that people come to for sex advice and for
Mhm.
tips. And then I kept like hearing that, like, your purpose, your passion doesn't feel like work. And I was like, oh, marketing coaching feels like work.
Yeah.
And so I kept like diving into that. Like, what doesn't feel like work? It's sexuality, and
Yeah.
that's my purpose work. And so I do it all. I do all three,
Yeah.
but that's how I got there. And just the testimonials and the changes and the impact, and then I just went for it.
Yeah. And so there wasn't really, or was there much of like a transition coming out for you? Or was it already like the clients that you were working with kind of transitioned that in the work you were already doing with them?
So honestly, I was a marketing coach, but my coaches that I worked with one-on-one, they kept saying, there's something about you. It's like owning your sexiness. It's owning this. It's twerking on live video.
Yeah.
It's sharing that you do pole and connecting it to business. So I was already diving into that, being open in that way.
Mhm.
And then I just started doing a passion project of my sexy goddess course about 4 years ago, and it went really well, and I just kept growing that and growing those skills. And then now I'm confident. Like, I've taken lots of people through that. I've also
Mhm.
grown my skills. I've taken trainings, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so yummy. We
Yeah,
love that.
just grew.
And so, where did you grow up?
Utah.
In Utah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't think I've had anybody from Utah yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember from sex education growing up?
Honestly, nothing. I am thinking back to having a sex ed class, and there was like a video, and like it didn't really say much. Everybody was talking. I remember, I don't know how old I was. Let's just say like preteen, preteenish.
Mhm.
I remember thinking that sex was rubbing naked bodies.
Oh, I
Like,
feel
I
like I have a
literally thought,
distant memory of that
yeah.
too.
Like, I used to
Yeah.
play with Barbies,
Mhm.
and so I thought,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
sex was like being naked and rubbing on
Mhm.
each other. I didn't
Yeah.
understand what it was for a very long time, and I was very naive because, yeah, there wasn't really sex education,
Yeah.
and my mom talked about it to an extent, but not like, what is it, anatomically?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not like this and this. It was like, "Oh, yeah, you have sex when you're married,
In
and
love
in
and like
love,
that
and
kind of a thing, and
don't
then
have
like a
sex before
baby.
marriage, and
Mhm.
like it's okay if you do, but God doesn't want it." So it was like very vague.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
just kind of dodging it all, but like
Yeah.
also like I have to have this conversation with my child, so here it is.
Yeah, and I no discredit to my
No, of course
family
not. No.
because I could have a very fuzzy memory,
Yeah.
but that's what I remember is I didn't fully understand it when I was younger. And I'm
Yeah.
talking like 11, 12,
Yeah.
13 even, maybe up to like I don't know.
Yeah. And so were there a lot of Mormons where you grew up, or
Yes.
were you in a Mormon community?
Yes, I
How
was in a very, very small town. Let's say in one of the smaller towns, it's like 70-80% Mormon.
Mhm.
I moved to Salt Lake City. It's a little less when I went to college. But yes, most people are
Yeah.
Mormon. People just assumed I was. I was very born again Christian. I was raised very born again. I was very Christian.
Mhm. And so with like what do you feel like the Mormon influence on your sex education may have been, if anything? Like do you feel like that impacted you?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it was more of the judgment and the shame and
Mm.
like, this is how it is. If you don't do it this way, you're wrong, you're going to hell, or you're a bad person. And that was more of society and the religious, like, high school and city that I lived in.
Yeah.
So, yes. And it definitely affected me. I talk about it on my TEDx talk is like, it affected me in all areas. It affected me like, I can't be this way. I can't do this. This is too sexy. This is not respectable. All these things were like piled on my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. It's layers and layers and layers. And as you're a young person, just like trying to figure out how to even exist in the world, then you're like these things that you feel are normal to you. Then you're like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, this is too short. This is too high. I can't say that word. This is making me this. This is making me that. So it's a tough way to navigate the world. And yeah.
Yeah. I grew up very small town. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like Salt Lake City is like the biggest city. It's the capital. And I grew up like in close to St. George, which is still a bigger city than where I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up in like a very small town.
Yeah. And what was like, what was the culture of kids like hooking up or getting pregnant or anything like that? Was it like, was that stuff happening or was everyone just like fear based? Like what do you remember from
It
that?
was pretty fear-based. I do not remember anybody being out of the closet. There was no bisexuals. Like,
Yeah.
think of Utah, small religious town.
Yeah.
Like, small town. There was no Walmart was in a bigger town. I was in a small town. Walmart was in like the town that's 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
So like I don't even know of anybody that got pregnant. Like,
Wow.
and I remember
I feel like that's really impressive.
or they just got out of high school and like
They
hit
just like
it. I don't
disappeared.
know.
Disappeared them. That happens a lot where they just
Yes,
like
they just
make kids
disappear.
just like go away.
They could have. Also, okay, so I remember there was like the pot smokers and they were bad. Like, I was in such a small town, you guys.
Yeah.
So I was like goody two shoes kind of, and like a cheerleader. And so the cheerleaders and the dancers, they're not supposed to drink. They could get kicked out. But I did know of some of the girls that did drink and they could get in trouble or they could get kicked off the team. But then I also dated the pot smoker, but I was the goody two shoes. So it was just weird. I was like friends with everybody, but also didn't know things. I was very naive.
Yeah. That is that very much like it's such a trope, like the good girl and the bad boy, and like the cheerleader that's like the good girl cheerleader, and she doesn't drink and she doesn't smoke and she doesn't do all these things, but then she's dating like the bad boy football player. Was it like that kind of dynamic?
And his ex, they had sex.
Yeah.
And everybody knew that because it was like very open. And they were like a couple, and I didn't ever with him. Yeah. So it was very unique. It was very weird.
What was that like for you? Like, was that like, and you don't ever have to answer anything that you don't want to answer. But just like thinking about that as a kid, being like, do you feel like there was more pressure on you to be like her? Or was it like these two caricatures of like, she was like the bad girl, like him and doing all these things. And you're like, I'm the good girl though.
That's a very deep question. That's a good question. I did feel like once I already made that I didn't swear, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. Like swearing, I remember being a big one for me. Like when I did start swearing a little bit, they're like, oh, she's swearing. They made a big deal about it. It made me feel weird.
Ugh.
Yeah. So that, I totally agree with that. It like felt weird.
Yeah.
And then also my mom did talk about sex in a certain way that I did feel like I could if I wanted to. And I didn't because I didn't want to.
Yeah, good for you.
So like it wasn't so much, I don't know, it was like my own goal.
Yeah.
Of like I wanted to be an adult, I wanted to feel safe. I didn't want to do it for a guy. And like whenever a guy was pushy, I would like push more back. Like, so I don't know, it was different.
Yeah. That's a super powerful disposition for a kid. Like, especially, there's just like, man, that's moms. That's like the power of a supportive parent. Because if she was maybe some other way about sex and sexuality and didn't trust you to have that autonomy, maybe you would have felt pressured. Maybe you would have felt weird about those things. Like maybe you wouldn't have had that confidence that you did have to just be like, fuck off, you know, like when
Yeah.
someone was pressuring you a little bit more.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. So I had a very straight edge boyfriend in
Ooh,
college, in high
okay.
school.
Yeah.
We were we were opposites actually,
Yeah.
now that I think about it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Funny. Okay, this is fun. So he played baseball.
Mhm.
He didn't drink, like he swore, but like he
Mhm.
didn't drink alcohol. He didn't
Mhm.
smoke weed, like nothing like that.
Mhm.
I was a cheerleader and I was definitely like in all the plays and like
Yeah.
I was like good girl on the outside. Like people were always shocked when they learned things about me. And I was
Yeah.
like, you don't know me.
Yeah, which is like, yes, yes.
It's always been that.
Mhm.
But so by the time we started dating, we were like 15, 16 or
Mm.
something. And like, I had done, we must've been 16. I had my sweet six. No, I turned 16 before him, I think. Anyway, I'm like doing calculations and like thinking
Yeah.
about these time periods, but like I did smoke weed. I had tried drugs. I had like I did drink. I
Mhm.
had sex before him, once
Mhm.
before him,
Mhm.
and he had sex with his girlfriend once before me, or
Okay.
his ex-girlfriend. But when I started dating him, I was like, I'm going to be straight edge. And so like I
Oh.
stopped doing
Yeah.
everything because he didn't like that and
Mhm.
I liked him. So
Mhm.
like it's kind of the opposite of what you
So
normally
funny.
see where it's like
Yeah.
the boy is like the one
Yeah.
that's drinking and everything. And I obviously didn't pressure him to do anything.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'm going to stop everything too. So I like went
Mhm.
straight edge or whatever. And then for the two of us, because at the time we're like, virginity exists, it doesn't exist. We're like, well, you only did it once and I only did it once. So we're gonna be each other's firsts, even
That's
though
cute
like
though.
it was really cute. It was really
I think it's
sweet.
cute.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely really sweet. But it's just funny thinking about that because I was just like, oh, I was the one that did all the things. And then when we broke up, my friends were like, you're so much more fun now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's one thing that like comes to my mind is like I didn't drink, but I was always such a I'm a hyper
Yeah,
person.
you have a lot of
So
energy.
yeah, so I didn't have to. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was always hyper and people were like, "Oh, are you drunk?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like I'm
Yeah,
so drunk.
yeah,
Like
here I
just being
am.
myself, like I didn't need it, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
glad that I didn't
Yeah,
because I didn't need it. I
yeah,
was having fun without drinking. And sometimes I try and tap into that old self of like, I can have fun without drinking. I can
yeah,
have fun without having sex. Like, you can like
totally.
get to know me. So my younger self was definitely very confident in some ways and then
Yeah.
very not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as everyone, even as adults, we're like
Yes.
very confident in some areas, and then other areas we're like, oh boy. I mean, imposter syndrome is a great example of that.
Yes.
Imposter
100%.
syndrome is very real.
Yep. And the new levels and the new, yes, you hit that over and over as
Oh
an adult,
yeah.
especially an entrepreneur.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, you get that so often. Like I've studied sexuality and coaching and education. Like I've studied this for a decade,
Yeah.
a fucking decade. I have
Yeah.
multiple certifications in it, like
Yes.
both real ones and ones that are just like, oh, I've just taken all these classes and read these
Yeah.
books and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And I still don't show up in the way that I should be. And then I have to have other
Yes.
people be like, you're like you are qualified.
Yep.
What are you do? Like get out of your own
Mhm.
way because it's just whatever level you're at, whatever you're doing, it's one of those things that keeps showing up. So you need those little
Yep.
reminders to be like, look at what you did. You did XYZ. Here's the fucking proof in what you got. Like imposter
Mhm.
syndrome, such bullshit.
And that is why a coach is so helpful
Yeah.
because I still deal with that. And I'm a confidence coach here and there, you know?
Mhm.
And so having somebody to help you with those highs and lows is like so powerful,
Yeah.
so helpful to keep that momentum. And I often struggle to get that help. And right now I do have it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm blasting off. I'm getting that momentum. It's like I already know what to do. It's
Mhm.
like I need help with the stability, the confidence, the momentum, the reminders. It's so
And the
powerful.
focus
The
too, because
focus.
it's so hard. I mean, I'm sure you're like me, where it's just like, okay, I've got all of these little things. I've got all
Mhm.
these little things in the cooker. And then, like, you put a little energy here and you put a little energy here.
Mhm.
But having that person to help you focus is like, it's such a powerful thing. And to keep
Yeah.
you accountable for that focus too.
Yep. 100% the
Mm.
accountability. It's like as soon as you invest and you pay the money and you're like, oh, I have a coach, you step up
Hmm.
usually, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, it's definitely and it's fun. It's fun to have that person
Yeah.
that's like got your fucking back.
It's so
Cuz we
nice.
also we want to rely on our friends for that, and your friends are great. your family is great. Your colleagues are great. All of these things,
Mhm.
we need these support systems. We need these different types of support systems,
Mhm.
but it takes a fucking village, and you have to
Yep.
have the right people in your village if you want to resolve whatever it is that you're experiencing, regardless of the type of support that you're needing. It's about getting the right support for the thing that you're doing.
Mhm. And your friends are usually projecting their own fears,
That part.
experiences,
Mhm.
and own limited knowledge,
Yeah. Yeah.
and often what they've been through
Mhm.
and what they want.
Yeah.
So, oftentimes going to your best friend with relationship advice and things like that, especially if they don't have the relationship or life or business that you desire,
Mhm.
is not good advice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not.
Yeah. And the thing is also that when you are progressing past a certain phase,
Yeah.
whenever you're making a change in your life, whether it's your diet or your sexuality or your work or whatever it is, your relationships, whatever it is, when you are making a change, it makes the people around you uncomfortable because you
Mhm.
are holding up a mirror for them. And so, what we often see is that the people around you will say things or do things that will try to bring you down. And it's not because they are trying to bring you down, it's because they are trying to keep you at their level because that's their comfort level. And when
Mhm.
you upgrade and when you progress past that, that makes them look at themselves in a way that they're not ready to. And it's no harm, no foul, no shame, no blame, nothing like that. This is just the human condition in psychology. This is just what happens. But it's
Mhm.
a really important thing for people to remember when you are trying to make those massive shifts. The people around you may find it very difficult to support you, even though they love and support you.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's
Yep.
it's just psychology. I mean,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with you. It's just their own experience.
Yeah. Even just recently, before I went to that retreat that I just got
Mhm.
back from, somebody I was on the phone with, and I was struggling because my clothing line like shifted and kind of disappeared. And so that was my biggest stream of income. And I was just going to go to this retreat, even though I didn't know how I was going to pay rent next. And I had
Mhm.
to like change all these things and like pay for all these things. And somebody was like, "You're crazy. You need to grow up." And I'm like, "No, I need to be at this
Whoa.
retreat." Like,
Yeah.
I didn't care what they said, but it did kind of get to me because
Yeah.
maybe they held it in for a long time. They were just projecting their own shit on me.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed to be there. I made like 2 to 3 clients since I've gotten back in like 2 weeks.
That's
Like,
great.
yeah, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So I needed to be there and it completely shifted me. And like those people were not, they didn't understand that.
Yeah, yeah. And to tell someone to grow up when all they're doing is literally getting the tools and resources they need to, if you want to call it
Yeah.
grow up, like grow up, glow up.
Yeah.
Like you're getting the resources that you need, and it's not in a way that everyone's going to understand it,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with words that are like bliss and magic and like froofy shit. Like
Yeah.
that can be really triggering for some people. It can get triggering for me because I've been in the coaching industry long enough to have seen every fucking scam.
Yep.
I've seen a lot in my days. So even for me, like those words, sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, you're using that language. I got to look at you a little bit deeper." But that's not to say that there's not value there. But people
Mhm.
that haven't been there, like those things can be triggering, or just the idea of going to a retreat. And again, to be fair, there's a lot of scams out there. I listen to
There is. Yeah.
scam podcasts all the time. Um, and the coaching industry is rife for it, but that's where you have to really like do your homework, do your research, get on a call with the potential person that you
Mhm.
want to work with. That's why you see most coaches will have a 20-minute like a consultation call. Like, let's
Yeah.
just see if we're a good fit, because that's a really important part of the process.
And see if they embody and do what they're teaching. That is
Yeah.
the biggest thing
Yes.
for me. And also the way they found you and the way they're talking to you. Is that what you want to do? Because they're going to be teaching you their process. Are
Mhm.
they doing their process?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody's going into your DMs every day and they're
Ooh.
trying to make you be a business coach and how to teach you how to get leads, that's what they're going to be teaching you.
Pyramid
is to
scheme.
DMing and getting into the DMs. Do you really want to do that? Do you want to hire someone to do that? Like, that's just such an obvious no that I'm like, no. Like, what? You're going to be teaching me what you're doing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a wild web out there. So get the support you need, but critical thinking. And the same thing with therapy. There are so many extraordinary therapists out there. But if you are not with the right match for you, that therapist is not going to be able to help you. No matter how many degrees they have, no matter how much change they've done with other people, no matter how extraordinary they are at what they do, they will not be able to help you because you're just not the right fit. I'm also realizing that I've left the window open and I'm getting all of the airplanes in Hollywood. Hang on. I'm going to close that window.
Okay. You're good.
Oh my God.
I gotta drink of water. So
yeah, there's the sirens going. There's like everything going here. Let me just do a little time check. Okay, great. Yeah, Hollywood living, baby. It's loud out here. At some point, it'd be nice to live somewhere that's not so loud. Not just for podcasting, but just, in general.
Yes. I don't have that much noise, but now I'm like, oh, I kind of want to live here.
Yeah, you always want what we don't have. It's the opposite, but that's novelty, which is a very important part of your sex life.
Trying new things, spicing it up, getting comfortable with discomfort.
Yeah, all of those things. And so, speaking of getting comfortable with discomfort, you want to talk about play parties a little bit?
Yeah,
that's
let's
a world
do
that
it.
we're both in. Yeah. It's the play party shuffle.
Play party.
So how did you get into play parties? Was it something that you attended with a partner first or by yourself? Like what's your play party story?
These are great questions. So once I moved to California, my friend is a sex and intimacy coach. So right when my whole fucking life changed moving to California. I live in OC, but I started going to play parties in LA. I started going to Sanctum. I went to Kinky Rabbit, and me and my friend just introduced me to this lifestyle. I was already curious of wanting to do threesomes and things like that. I'd already done threesomes, and I've always been kinky. Like, I didn't know that I wasn't to the degree. I just always loved to push the boundaries. I always loved like a little bit of impact play and things like that. So I've always been kinky. And then I go to these parties and I was like, oh my God, like it was so fun and sexual and like I loved it. I just loved being around it. But funny fact is that I didn't play with men.
Yeah, fair.
I only played with women because at these different play parties, Kinky Rabbit, Sanctum, they're very much so towards the men. They're very much so men pay a lot of money. Women don't. Women are super pretty. The men are like
that imbalance.
Old, and the imbalance of
power dynamics.
Power dynamics.
Yeah, we don't like that.
I like that there's a little bit of change in pay difference because we do get paid less and we do have to get our outfits, our nails done, our this and this and this, but not to the extreme where it was like, back in, years ago. I sound like I'm old. It's like
you're younger than me.
It's like $1,800 for men and women are free or $30.
And that's a problem because now you have a whole dynamic where you have a population of people at a sex party who feel that they are owed an experience. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous.
Full body chills and the energy.
Yeah.
It's because they are going there now. They paid for this. They are invested, and the women aren't as invested too.
Not at all.
They're
invested.
Not like, oh, like I want to also make the most of this experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had fun, but I wasn't in that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even that, like, and it was just that type of energy. I could feel the thirst.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the opposite of a magnet? It's like the opposite end of the magnet.
Yeah, the opposite
it's
when it's like,
I'm just like,
polarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would just hang out with girls, and honestly, I would mostly hook up with the women that I went with. And it would be like
Yeah.
a super fun, sexy group, and I'd have so much fun. And I don't even think most of the women would hook up with any men at these.
I imagine no.
And then I did meet one cool guy one time, I think at Kinky Rabbit. And then we
Yeah.
went to Dominican Republic, and he was a
Ooh,
great guy.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't have sex with him
Yeah.
at the play party.
Yeah.
So I never had sex with a guy at a play party until the one that we go to, the play.
Yeah. That's so fun. And I think that that is a really important thing for people to know about play parties. You do not have to play at a play party. Just because you are in the space where sex is permitted doesn't mean it's required. So go to a play party. If it's your first play party, go, enjoy, be safe, have conversations, meet people. If you want to see them after, you can do that. It's a great way to just meet people that maybe you want to play with later. But you never, ever, 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 under any circumstance, have to play at a play party. Just need to throw that out there.
And it's so fun.
Yeah. I don't play at play parties for the most part.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't that much.
I feel like I went through a phase where I like did almost every time, and then I got more in it and more of the relationship building. So now it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy the voyeurism. I enjoy being watched. I enjoy the sensuality. I enjoy performing.
Yeah.
So it's just a really fun space. And I feel the most safe because people have to ask for consent before they touch me.
Yeah.
And then I started getting so comfortable with that. Now I go to clubs and they're grabbing my ass or touching my arm.
Oh, no,
or
buddy.
expecting me to do something because they buy me a drink. And it's like, I forget how unsafe it is at clubs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would rather be at a play party than any other party ever, full stop. I'm pretty sure like play parties are pretty much the only parties I ever go to, unless it's like a birthday party or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it is, first of all, it's a space where you can play in your eroticism, whatever that means to you. There's no one way to be erotic. So there's safe spaces where you can play in your eroticism, where there is accountability. If you're with a good organization, I work for 2 organizations. They're both good and they will both hold you accountable. And so that's the thing, is that like you're in a space where consent is required and there's an accountability to that consent, so that if somebody is doing something that's violating someone, like grabbing an ass like they do in a club, or like putting pressure on because somebody bought you a drink, which like you can't buy drinks at play parties anyway. But you know, like if there is that sense of coercion or anything like that, like you will have ramifications for your actions, which if you go to a club or like a friend's house party, which like, of course, go to your friend's house party, but like there's no course for action there. And that creates a much different experience for people who are women or who are trans.
And the consent talk. So most of the play parties that I attend are vetted. There's an experience. You get to know people, and there's a consent talk. And so we share what it is all about. We share how to say no. We give ideas. There's still women that come to me after these consent talks, and they ask me, but how do I say no?
Yeah.
And I give them examples of different ways to say no that feels comfortable to them. One of my most recent workshops, one of the women went from like, she's not good at saying no, to really trying to be the opposite and being like, no, like.
Yeah.
But that leap is a little difficult.
Yeah, it's real big. That's a real big leap. You're asking way too much of yourself.
So it's good to start with where you're at.
Yes.
Where your no's are at. So if you want to practice them, it's like easing into it, like, no, not right now. Or I don't think so. And that's okay to get to those no's, because you got to start with where you're at. Where I was like, she was like, no. And I was like, I'm sorry, hun, but let's find one that you feel comfortable using and that you feel is good for you and your body.
That's also fair and humane to the person that's asking you.
Yes.
Like, this is another human being that's taking a risk by bidding you. They are taking a risk. And like, I got to shout out my dudes out here, because it's a big shift for them, especially like in at least my age range. to like consent was never a part of anything
Yeah.
ever. And so it's a big leap for these guys to now like listen, it was a lot of pressure for them to try to like read signs that didn't exist and like decode a human being. That's way harder.
Yeah.
But to use your language is a
Mm.
huge leap for them too. And the scariest thing that someone can do is say no.
Yeah,
So,
just so aggressively, like, no.
exactly.
And you're
And
like,
so like here they are, they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to
Mhm.
be the right guy and
Mhm.
be the quote unquote good guy. All of that stuff. I say quote unquote because there's no such thing as a good guy, bad guy. There's good actions and bad actions. And so, they are doing what they can. And so we can show them kindness. And
Mhm.
even if it's a woman asking a man and blah, blah, it doesn't matter what your gender is and what your sexuality is because woman, woman, man, man, all of it. We can show kindness
Mhm.
when we are expressing that we don't want to do something
Yeah.
because you don't have to do it. That's
Yeah.
fine.
And you can respond like, "Hey, thank you.
Yeah. That's
Thank
cool.
you.
Thanks.
That's fine.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you." Because then you trust them when you ask, like, even a friend. I'm just thinking
Mhm.
of friends.
Yeah.
Like, when you're like, "Hey, can you help me move?" And they're like, I can't,
Yeah.
sorry. Then you know when they do say yes, they're not just doing it to please you. And
Yeah.
it just feels so much better when people do it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah.
And I respect my friends that are like, "So I can't."
Yeah.
And then when they show up, they show up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's setting boundaries. And we can
Mhm.
do that in all of these different areas. It's the same thing with like, try to experience pleasure in all of
Mhm.
the areas that exist and also play with your boundaries everywhere it
Yes.
exists. These things are all around us, and yet
Mhm.
we put so much focus on our sexuality and our sex lives. And like, it's no wonder we get so flabbergasted because this is the only
Mm.
area that we're talking about it or trying it or
Mhm.
expressing it or anything. So it's
Yep.
like, if the barista fucks up your drink order, tell them. Tell them
Yes.
what you like. Tell them what you don't like. Low stakes knows. Low stakes knows help you with those high stakes knows.
Mhm. How you do one thing, you do all things.
Yeah.
So, yes, practicing outside the bedroom as well. I was on the phone with one of my clients and she was like, "Yeah, I just have a really hard time having an orgasm. I have a really hard time. I'm in my head. I can't receive, da 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 da." And so I was giving her some ideas of how to receive outside the bedroom.
Yeah. Big
Receive
one.
compliments, receive attention even. Because we've been
Yes.
so like shut down of the cat calls. I don't want men to cat call me.
Yeah.
I don't.
Do not. Do
But
not
you
do
can
that.
kind of like take it in like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I do look a little hot, but you don't have to give them any
Yeah.
attention. They don't have to know that you're like, okay, I kind of look hot.
Yeah.
Or like somebody gives you a compliment and you're like, oh, I feel like I look like shit. Stop saying that
Yeah.
and just be like, ah, thank you. And
Yeah.
maybe feel it into your body. Feel the compliment,
Yes.
not just hear it.
Embody it. Yeah.
Embody the
Embody
compliment.
it and believe people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing with confidence when you go, and this goes for performers too. So if you're a performer, I really want you to listen here. When you have a performance or when you're just walking down the street or whatever, but I want to talk to performance for a second here. When you have a performance and somebody is there and they tell you, "Oh my God, that was amazing." And then you turn around and tell them, "Oh, it was so bad. I did this,
Mm-hmm.
I did that." Not only are you invalidating their experience,
Mm-hmm.
but you are also ruining that experience because they just had a great time and they just
Mm-hmm.
told you they had a great time. And now you are destroying that great time because now they're thinking about, like, "Oh, I was all right, whatever. I guess that was shit." Like, no, don't do
Mm.
that. And so when someone gives you a compliment, and not that I'm always good at this because I'll be like, "Oh
Same.
my God, I look like shit."
Yeah.
Take the compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, "Thank you so much." And in your head, that's your opportunity to say, "See, Arielle, you feel like you look like shit, but so and so thinks you're hot as fuck. So you need to reframe what you're doing up in here and have
Mm-hmm.
that conversation with yourself. Don't have the conversation with the person that just gave you a beautiful thing. They
Mm-hmm.
just gave you a gift. Don't shit on that gift. Shit on that bad voice in your head that's telling you some bullshit."
Yeah, and that's a gift for them too. Like
Yeah.
when we give gifts, it helps us feel good too. So
Mhm.
you know, detracting from that gift, not fully receiving it, it kind of affects their feelings too. So
Yeah.
kind of think of that for those people pleasers.
Absolutely. I have such a great example of this. I was cleaning up after my friend's birthday party and I was taking down the like photo wall thing that we created. And one of her friends, a man, he came up to me and I'm like packing away, whatever. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, can I help? Like, can I help with anything?" And I was like, "No, this is good, whatever." And then he walked away, possibly a little deflated. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he walked away, I was like, "Arielle, you just took away the thing that
Yeah.
he wanted to do. He wants a job. He's
Mm-hmm.
literally going around. He has not left this party because he wants to help
Yep.
clean up. And you just took that opportunity away from him.
Yeah.
What a fucking jerk you are. So that is.
Hey.
That's true. I'm not a jerk. I'm not a jerk, but that was a jerk move. That was a jerk move. So it's like, we have to recognize those moments. And that wasn't about, yes, it was about me receiving, and I could have taken up that opportunity to receive this person's help. But it was also, what are you taking away from that person? I took something away from that person by being like, no, I'm good. He could have helped me. And then it
Yeah.
would have been better for me, better for him, better for everybody. So, we have to kind of take a beat to look at the full picture of a situation before being like, no, I'm good. And as strong women, of course, we're like, I'm good. I don't need help, blah, blah, blah. So receiving can be a really big and hard lesson to learn.
Big and hard lesson.
If that's what you're into.
I love big and hard lessons.
We also like them, medium and
we like all of the lessons.
All of the lessons, the little lessons, the medium lessons. We're the Goldilocks of lessons. Give it all to us.
Give me all the lessons.
I want all the lessons.
I love that. I love just where we went.
No, you never know. So I don't see the timer, but I'm going to guess it's probably about that time for me to ask you, what is one thing that you wish people knew about more that they kept in mind? Like one thing that you want to maybe leave people with?
That I have doubt too. And I have that inner demon, imposter syndrome, and negative voices in my head as well. And I show up and I work through it, and I show up with that demon, with that negative voice with me, or I'm nicer to it, or I just do my steps that I teach people. Like I practice what I coach on, and I do it often. Like if I'm getting that like imposter syndrome spiral or starting to tear myself down and just like a space that I feel discomfort, I go through my practices that I teach. I go through it and I talk myself through it or do the practices. And that is why I show up the way I do. It's not an instant thing. I've been through a lot. I have a lot of negative voices as well, just like all of us. And that's one thing that I've learned is that like the prettiest people in the world are like usually the most unconfident and negative voices. They are so mean to themselves. So we need to be nice to everybody because we don't know what they're going through.
Yeah, more kindness all around, inside and outside. It kind of goes back to that, like the no, right? Like you can say no in a really beautiful, supportive way. And you can also tell that inner voice to shut the fuck up in a really beautiful way too. Like, and it is, one thing that I tell people and that I do myself is like literally say out loud, say your name out loud. Talk to yourself as if you are a friend because your brain is not going to know the difference. Your brain is just going to think that you're talking to a friend and be like caring and loving the way that you are to your friends, but not to yourself when you use your first name. So you can say like, Arielle, or like, let's say I said like, oh, I'm such a fucking idiot. Then say out loud, Arielle, you're not an idiot. You may have done a dumb thing, but everybody does dumb things. But you know for sure that you're not an idiot. So let's not say that ever again. And so then you build that muscle because you're having that conversation with yourself. So I love that, like, make friends with your demons, like give them love because they need love too.
Yeah, and it's okay to have that doubt. Yes. Because sometimes you're like, why am I thinking this again? It's like, we're human.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
And also something that we don't really like to say, there can be takeaways in negative feedback.
Okay. Oh,
for
sure.
There is good stuff in there. So if we can kind of get our ego and our pain out of the way and be like, okay, this is coming up. Maybe it's total crap, but what's the truth in here?
Mhm.
Where can we find that? And that can come back with your sexual feedback too. Like when we're having conversations around our sex and what we do and we don't like do it with love, do it with kindness,
Mhm.
receive it with love and kindness. Because if you get your ego out of the way, even if they said something in a painful way, let's work through that. But then what are they really trying to say here? What is the value in that? Like, what is there something that I can take away from
Mhm.
this thing? And maybe there is and maybe there's not. Usually
Mhm.
there is. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes people are just nasty. But sometimes you're just nasty in your head. But like, how can we? I love that. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Don't respond with your ego, respond with love.
Yeah. And so how can people find you?
Ooh, I am most active on Instagram, Sexy Biz Babe, and you can check me out on my podcast. It's all things are Sexy Biz Babe, and yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Feel free to send me a DM if it's a question, if you're interested in something, if you want to learn something. But I'm not about the like one word haze. Okay.
Yeah. Make it actually
Yeah.
get some substance in
Yeah.
there.
But I love to, help and be of service.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
You
Thank
can
you.
find me at birdsandbeesdon'tfuck.com without the U. It's the Instagram, it's the website. Um, I've got all sorts of classes and shit, but I don't even know what I'm going to link you to. So just go there and you'll find all the things. If you like this podcast, then please, or I'm not even going to call it a podcast anymore. It's just, if you like this show, like it, subscribe, send it to somebody, leave a comment on YouTube. Love all y'all out there. So let's get some conversations going. Let's do it. And I don't know, that's it for now. So thank you again for coming on. It was so good to see you.
Yay, thank you.